Where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. God has given us unlimited treasures in His Word. Every time we open it, we can discover a new treasure or admire an old one. What will we find today? Here's Carla Early with Treasure Hunt in the Word.
Do you know people who think they're all that in a bag of chips? People for whom the word humility is a foreign concept? That would describe the disciples as they argued over who was the greatest in the kingdom and vied for positions on the right and left of Jesus. But John the Baptist had no such illusions of grandeur. Remember how he described himself when the Pharisee delegation asked who he was? He said, "I am the voice of one crying out in the wilderness." He knew his place in the scheme of things. He was the herald for the king. He was to prepare the way and then fade into the background. He said he wasn't even worthy to be the Messiah's lowest servant who took off his sandals and washed his feet. What a stark contrast John the Baptist was to Jesus' disciples the night of their Last Supper together. They had no servants in attendance, and all of the 12 disciples thought too much of themselves to take a servant's role. So Jesus modeled what leadership in God's kingdom was all about by washing their feet. That was unheard of. A rabbi kneeling down and washing the dirt and grime off of his disciples' feet? That just didn't happen. What a lesson it was for the disciples. John the Baptist needed no such lesson. If he had been there that night, he would have washed Jesus' feet and felt unworthy to do so. But as he said in John 3:30, Jesus must increase, but I must decrease. And as Paul says in Romans 12:3, don't think of yourself more highly than you ought to think. So how do we do that? Or how do we know that we're not thinking of ourselves with a too high of opinion? Well, I can tell you how we know that John the Baptist didn't have an inflated ego. When the group sent from Jerusalem asked him who he was and challenged his authority, he only wanted to talk about Jesus. Every chance he got, John told about the one coming who was preferred before him because he was before him, Jesus. And as soon as Jesus showed up, John identified him and faded into the background. Humility is taking the spotlight off of self and putting it on the Lord. As John the Baptist answered the Jews' questions about who he was telling them, you're focusing on the wrong person. You're looking at me when the Messiah is literally in your midst. I'm nothing. He is everything. John the Baptist quoted only Isaiah 40 verse 3 since he knew the Pharisees would know the rest of it. But there is a bit more to it. Isaiah said, "The voice of one crying out in the wilderness, prepare the way of the Lord, make straight in the desert a highway for our God. Every valley shall be exalted, every mountain and hill brought low. The crooked places shall be made straight, the rough places smooth. The glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together, for the mouth of the Lord has spoken." John the Baptist spoke in a physical wilderness, but really all of Israel was a desert. Even the temple was spiritually barren. They lived in a wilderness of sin, unbelief, legalism, and self-righteous formalism. John the Baptist couldn't fix that, of course, but he could prepare the way for the one who could make that desert blossom with his living water. John the Baptist was there to tell the unimportant and unnoticed people of the world that they were precious in God's eyes, and he was there to let the proud, self-righteous people, like the Jewish leaders, know that they are not the perfect prized possessions of the Lord that they thought. And most especially, John was there that all through him might believe. Is your heart ready for what the Lord has for you? What valleys need to be exalted or mountains need to be made low in your life? What crooked places need to be made straight? What rough places need to be made smooth?
You can contact us at treasurehuntintheword@gmail.com. We'd love to hear the treasures God has given you through His Word. You can listen to other episodes at our website, which you can find in the description below. Thanks for listening, and remember, where your treasure is, there will your heart be also.